Hello and welcome to CommLab India's eLearning Champion Pod. I'm your host Tanushree, back with another interesting episode. Well, we are already in the last quarter of 2024. Time really flies, doesn't it? I hope the first three quarters have been fantastic for you. If they have, it is natural to feel a bit tempted to ease up and take a breather. After all, we have been working so hard, and a little rest sounds to be inviting, right? But let's not get too comfortable just yet. If things haven't gone as planned, don't worry. We still have time to turn things around. No matter where we stand right now, the sight of the finish line can give us that much needed boost of energy. So let's take a moment to assess our progress. Where do we stand? What can we tweak to ensure we finish strong? Let's aim to wrap up this last quarter with every item on our L&D checklist proudly checked off. To help us with actionable insights to sail smooth in our L&D journey, we have with us Shalini, Director Learning Solutions. Welcome to the podcast, Shalini.
Thank you, Tanushree, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers. Yes, we are in the last couple of days of the last 3 months of 2024, and really nothing like a great and a strong finish to this
True.
year, so that we can start 2025 on a winning note.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
To start with the year end approaching, how can we ensure our L&D team stays focused and productive?
Right. So, I think the first thing to do is to reground ourselves. It's been a while since we've looked at what's our mission, what's our vision for this year. And this is the perfect time and the perfect opportunity to step back and take a look. Something like stock taking, do your annual stock taking. While it's not inventory, it is a list of all that you had planned for this year. So get total clarity on what is remaining, what are the timelines, and make sure that everybody is reacquainted with this. I'm not talking just about the L&D team, because L&D teams, your L&D team will tend to be in the loop, but every single other person involved in the remaining part of the deliverables and the remaining part of contributing to your ecosystem for the rest of this year. So your vendors, your SMEs, your HR, just make sure that everybody is once again uh, focusing afresh on the need of the hour. And you can probably, draw up a tracker and track it very minutely during the last 3 months to make sure that, as you said, Tanushree, we can tick off all those check boxes
Right.
with a sense of accomplishment
True.
and go forward.
Right. So, right, as you have set the stage very clearly, that it's time for take a quick look at whatever checklist we have and tick off each points that we already have in our mind. And I would like to ask you, Shalini, that how can we avoid overwhelming the subject matter experts during this busy time while still getting the input we need?
Right. That's a good question, because getting inputs from SMEs who are thoroughly occupied with their primary job has always been a challenge. And more so at this time of the year, when
Hmm.
people are gearing up for their annual winter break. Things tend to slow down a little bit towards
Yes.
December. And it's very important that we keep this SME engagement going. By now, we would have already built up good relationships, good equations with our SMEs.
Right.
And now is the time to really, make sure that we can assure them that,
Right.
uh, we are committed
Hmm.
to not rushing them towards the end of the year,
Right.
leaving them free to focus on more on other mission critical tasks. But at the
Correct.
same time, letting them know that this can happen only if right now we get all that we need as an L&D team. So
True.
it is unfair to chase an SME, you know, 2 days before they go off on their annual break. So check
Right.
in with your SMEs.
Hmm.
Uh, a, have a very transparent plan. What you would have done in step one, regrounding yourself on the deliverables. Have that
Right.
documented and share this very transparent plan with the SME and ask for inputs now, even if you're not going to begin working on it immediately. Now, once you get the inputs, don't wait for the last month to
Right.
start looking at it and asking queries, getting in touch
Hmm.
for clarifications, because
Hmm.
that again would be rushing them towards the end. So while
True.
you don't have to dive into every input and start designing and developing, you can still take a look. You can do one part of your task, the content analysis part of it right now, so
Right.
that if there are any further pending inputs, you can quickly touch base with the SME.
Right.
Now, one way to ensure that we keep this going is small, frequent check-ins with the SME. Minimal time, because it can get annoying if just because you want to finish all everything by the end of this year, you're getting in touch far too often. But
Right.
frequent check-ins can really help. And when you when you have this shared plan, then
Hmm.
it's easy for everyone to know.
Right.
And as I said, if you can emphasize that by a little bit more effort right now, you
Hmm.
can leave them free to focus on other tasks in the last month of this year. Uh, I'm sure, you know, um, many people would free up
Hmm.
their time somehow to
Right.
meet the requirements of L&D.
Hmm. Right. So that was insightful, Shalini. That really it's depends on all our planning. If we plan better, we can definitely have a better execution in place.
Yes,
And as the SMEs are busy people held up amidst multiple tasks, so it's always good to share the plan with them so that they can also make room for
right,
our queries, right?
right.
And
And
that, huh,
right. It's not that I'm sure all of us have already shared our plans, but these were in
right,
the ideal scenario situation. And now
right.
when time is things tend to slow down while days are rushing by at the same time, then it
True.
pays to have this maybe a tweaked plan, keeping
Correct.
in the light of all these things. Because also
Right.
remember that some of your own L&D team may be on leave during that last part of the year.
Absolutely.
So these
Yeah.
are some things that I mean, they seem very simple and too obvious to be stated, but
Right.
it's to be surprised at how many times we lose track of these very simple, small things, which
Correct.
can derail our effort, just when everything was going well. So this is
Yes.
what
Yes.
is a good practice.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it just slips off our mind. It's not about not sharing, but so
Yes,
it's always good to keep a check. And as you said, the frequent check-ins that
right,
helps, and definitely it saves us from that 11th hour rush.
right.
So yeah. So Shalini, are there ways to maximize our L&D tool usage for better efficiency in the final quarter?
Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, one of the first questions we can ask ourselves at this stage, especially if you're in the have reached the development of certain solutions,
Right.
take a look at how much is your team really utilizing the features of the various tools, maybe authoring, collaboration tools, and
Hmm.
do a quick pulse check across the team. Maybe
Correct.
there are some functionalities which are great, which are still not being used because, in our race to keep ahead,
Right.
we may not have had time to explore some of them, but they may be very impactful things. So it
Yes.
is worth investing a little time to monitor and track tool usage,
Right.
not just tool usage, but usage of certain features across
Right.
the team.
Hmm.
And one quick way in which we can make sure that we are really leveraging our tools well is once you do this monitoring and tracking of the tool usage, have a learning buddy system among your team in place so that
Yes.
more experienced, more skilled members can very quickly bring the others up to speed. So it doesn't require
Right.
really blocking huge amounts of time. It's just a few
Hmm.
minutes. And that way,
Right.
you also create that culture of sharing, that culture
Right.
of learning. So you
Hmm.
hit, you manage to achieve two things in one go.
Hmm.
And another thing is if there are really any experts that
Right.
you have in your tool, well, in the usage of your tool, well, you can always schedule a lunch and learn session, for instance. You're not dragging people away from their work. It's just a working lunch.
Right.
Um, and you're seeing a demo of some great features or something that worked for somebody. Now, if
True.
your team doesn't have the bandwidth or the expertise
Hmm.
to leverage some of the features or functionalities, then it's always a great idea to bring in an external expert so that you
Right.
can hit those targets. And
Hmm.
you can probably, begin by outsourcing small bits of it.
Right.
Small bits, keep the strategic part with you. Maybe
Hmm.
just the development of a few assets, some
Correct.
animations, some videos.
Hmm.
So, very small ways in which you can really maximize the efficiency of
True.
your development team.
Right. Okay. So it was great to know that there's nothing to worry if we don't have the in-house expertise to handle the tools, or we have, like, due to the time crunch, we might be focusing on other business priorities. So it is always good to outsource certain elements if we want.
Right,
So, and that way we can maximize the usage of our tools and get whatever is planned, we can get it done
right.
within the finish line. Yes. So, how can we realistically integrate AI tools into our L&D processes this late in the year, if we are at all planning
Right.
to start or to integrate some of the AI tools or try them out? So, is there a possibility that we can still integrate AI tools late in this year?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay,
The
that's a
best
good
practice,
news.
yeah, just starts very small. Pick
Right.
one AI tool that brings in process efficiencies, that reduces effort.
Mm,
It could be
right,
just one tool specific to just one very small part of your development process, but
right,
it is still going to accelerate your overall,
right.
delivery time.
Hmm,
So don't get overwhelmed by the fact that, we've almost reached the end of the year and we still haven't started integrating AI tools into our L&D strategy. But
right,
pick a small, quick win and
right.
try it, pilot test it,
Hmm,
monitor the effort reduction by using this tool, and share those findings with your team to enthuse them. Because
hmm,
nothing gives you a boost as much as seeing some data being, as data talking, data telling the story. So
right,
share uh, these numbers with your team as well. Encourage
hmm,
somebody to keep track, and they
right.
can share it.
Hmm,
And this is one very quick way in which you can integrate, get started, in a very small way.
right,
It doesn't have to be something very elaborate. Of course,
right,
it's always good to have more than one AI tool in your toolkit, but
right.
start small and see the wins, and
Hmm.
then be sure to make it an integral part of your L&D strategy, maybe in the next 1 year, along with other AI tools, which by then you would have had a chance to try out.
Right. So that was a great idea, Shalini, that we can always give it a try, and we can start small. And what we can do is that whatever results we find, whatever are our findings this year by using these AI tools, we can definitely take it up forward in the next year. And
Yes,
that would really help us out, right?
right.
So now, when we talk about measuring the impact of our L&D initiatives, since we are almost in the last quarter of 2024. So, beyond completion rates, how can we effectively measure the impact of our L&D initiatives?
Right. And one hopes that, we've moved beyond completion rates per se in general, but
Right.
all the more reason at this point, at this stage in our journey, to take
Mm,
stock. So I would say begin with the KPIs, that you would have mapped at the outset of this learning initiative. Those
right.
KPIs which directly impact business goals.
Hmm.
Now, if you are thinking to yourself, okay, we didn't really do that bit,
Right.
that's not really a problem because you still have access to that data. That data is available any point at any time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Customer response rate, for
Correct.
instance, that
Hmm.
data is available. So if
Right.
you've done some training along those lines to improve the response rate,
Right.
uh, then you just have to look at the metrics before and after your training initiative.
True.
So identify certain key metrics. And if you've already
Right.
done this at the outset, nothing like it, because you would be, in any case, be very closely aligned with your business goals.
Right.
But you can still go back. You can still go back and pull out certain key metrics and start seeing the impact. And this can be as simple as, checking in with your teams, the
Right.
various learner teams, the managers of those teams. And
Certainly.
we sometimes in our rush to do things, we even forget something as simple as learner surveys. I know that's the very
Right.
first preliminary step, but
Correct.
you'd be surprised at how often we keep postponing it, and
Yeah,
thinking, okay, we'll do it,
absolutely.
we'll do it. But the point is, let's do it already,
Right.
because that's going to give us some inputs which will inform our
Absolutely.
steps going forward.
Right.
And based on those inputs, maybe we can even put together some quick job aids, some quick
Hmm.
performance support materials, which needn't take too much of your team's time, especially with so many tools being available now to repurpose content from one format into another. So do this. And of course, the biggest impact is, behavioral change,
Right.
improvement in performance. And while we
True.
may not have the luxury of measuring it at, Kirkpatrick levels 4 and 5 and so on, we can still
Hmm.
do these, uh, we can still conduct these small evaluations
Right.
and roll them out to our learners, to our managers.
Hmm.
And that'll be a big boost for L&D as well
Right.
because it to be able to see demonstrate them visible tangible impact
Right.
is a great boost, and that might all be that's required to give that last minute burst of energy, as you
Yes.
mentioned, to finish
Absolutely.
strong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
So wonderful points you have shared, Shalini, that it's always not the completion rates, but we can assess through the behavioral changes and, of course, what is the improvement in the team performance and productivity. So definitely these parameters also help us gauge that whether our training programs are having an impact or rather a long-term impact on our organization.
right. And
So,
one thing I'd like to mention is, it's also a good idea to measure the learners' confidence levels when they're dealing
right,
with a certain area. Because maybe at
absolutely.
you know, where do they stand now? How confident are they? Even if you've not done a pre-training assessment of their confidence levels, even
Right.
just the post-training will still give you some data. In an ideal situation, of course, you would do both. And the learner
Definitely.
can see for themselves, okay, well, I wasn't this very confident at the start, but now I am fairly confident. But we can still
Yes.
do that. And
Right.
yeah, it's a boost to the learners also to realize that, hey, yeah, I do feel more confident now than I did in the past. So that can be part
Absolutely.
of the survey actually for the learners.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. We can absolutely include that in our surveys and assessments. True. So, Shalini, as we are already in the last quarter, and most of the organizations, most of us have already spent a majority of the portion of our training budget.
Right.
So, with Q4 budget constraints, and we have so many plans still, maybe that to introduce a new tool or to introduce a new learning strategy. So, how can we prioritize L&D spending for maximum impact considering the budget constraint?
Right, right. That's a very valid point, Tanushree. In fact, the last quarter is usually a crunch time when it comes to budgets.
Right.
So what I'd recommend is take a look at what are the learning solutions that are likely to have the maximum impact,
Right.
and strategically allot the remaining part of your spend to those projects.
Hmm.
Because not
Ah,
everything, is uh, high priority.
right.
So identify those for which, it is worth investing a little
Correct.
and redirect your budget for
Hmm.
those.
Hmm.
And for those projects where, which are not really budget intensive, you can cut some costs provided you're not compromising on the quality.
Right.
But maybe, you can streamline it a little further
Hmm.
and shift that budget
Right.
towards the more critical areas.
Right.
Uh, And of course, if you're one of those lucky ones who still have a lot of budget remaining, well, this
Hmm.
is a great time to invest in some tools, some AI tools,
Right.
and at least be ready, with this kind of research and this kind of investment
Hmm.
for a great start to 2025.
Absolutely. So, yes, as you said it rightly, that we can always review our current budget and maybe identify the areas for possible reallocation
Right.
and prioritize our projects with the highest potential for
Yeah.
maximizing the ROI and aligning with the
Absolutely.
key business objectives.
Yes, yes. And this, of
Yes.
course, at times you may have to go back to leadership if you're taking
Right.
decisions along either adding more
Hmm.
budget, more spend, or reducing something and
Right.
diverting it. If there are multiple stakeholders, then well, you would need to reach a consensus because, well, not everybody is going to be happy with a budget cut on their pet project, for instance. But if
Right.
you can demonstrate the business reasons for doing it,
Hmm.
then yes, everybody should be in alignment.
Right. So, Shalini, my next question would be, I was just wondering that since we are almost at the end of the year, and if we, as L&D enthusiasts, I would say, would like to still upskill and reskill ourselves, so what are the some quick wins for upskilling ourselves and our teams in the final quarter to prep ourselves for the coming year?
Right. So that's another great question, Tanushree, because we as L&D professionals are so busy driving learning for everybody else that
True.
our own learning, our own team's learning ends up
Hmm.
taking a back seat.
Yes.
And really, we need to sharpen the saw, invest in
Right.
ourselves for us to be able to cut better.
Absolutely. Hmm.
So this is when block a little time for self-development. It needn't be something very elaborate.
Hmm.
You'd be amazed at what can be achieved with just 5 or 10 minutes a day. You know,
Oh,
to research a new tool, a new technology, to look at some great samples out there of
right.
great learning experiences, to read up a great blog, or to check out some toolkit, some kit that has been put together for the L&D function. These are
Hmm.
very small, powerful, quick wins. But
Right.
one thing, it needs a commitment. It needs an ongoing commitment. And especially during this rush time, when we are all in a hurry to finish things so that we get some breathing space towards the end of the year, this might
Right.
seem like a very low priority because, hey, we should start learning at the start of the year, not when we are just
Hmm.
trying to wind up so many multiple things.
Right.
But those 5 minute, 10 minute blocks of your time can yield very high results because,
Right.
that can still trigger some quick idea, which
Hmm.
needn't necessarily be expensive to implement.
Right.
So uh, be dedicated and committed to your own development, to the development of your team, even if it's in small, short learning bites. So
Right.
that's something that, we do here at CommLab India very diligently. We are
Hmm.
primarily, we have a great culture of learning, as you know, and
Right.
we make sure that, nothing interferes with that, even if it's 5 minutes a day.
Hmm.
Just keep at it. Just keep
Yes.
at it.
So that was $1 million advice, Shalini, that 10 minutes a day can definitely take us a long way.
Right.
So, like exploring communities, as you said, communities of
Yes,
practice,
yes,
and
that's a
attend
great place.
webinars. Attending webinars or read some industry articles, as you said, on the
Yes.
latest tools and technologies and
An industry
advancements.
report, for instance,
Right. Hmm.
shouldn't
That
take
will
long. You
actually,
can just skim over it. You don't have to do
right,
all the. Take a quick look, skim over the findings, typically presented visually to
right.
help you also think along, different lines of
Yes,
action if
definitely.
required. If required, yeah.
Yes, yes. And of course, whatever knowledge or these insights that we gather, what's happening in the emerging L&D trends and all, even if we are not able to implement it, all these new strategies immediately, but definitely this knowledge will help us to give a head start for
Oh
2025.
yes. Oh yes.
Yes.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. So, Shalini, where can we find? Like, I'm feeling so enthusiastic about learning something new over this quarter. So, where can we find additional resources and support to finish 2024 strong?
Right. So, they're thankfully they are there everywhere. The
Right.
quickest way is to check out LinkedIn. Not just
Yes.
posts by influencers, thought leaders in your domain, but
Right.
also LinkedIn Learning. There are
Hmm.
some wonderful courses. So you might want to just take a quick course on stakeholder engagement, for instance, or
Right.
leveraging some tool. And there
Hmm.
are all these great demos doing the rounds of tools, which you can
Correct.
always take a quick look at. And
Yes.
then there are all kinds of resources available in these communities of practice. And if you get a chance to
Right.
attend any of them, that'll be great. Which
Hmm.
also reminds me that, we have our own community of practice event called Learn
Yes.
Flux coming up in
Right.
October. And we are
Hmm.
really excited about this because we have business leaders, L&D leaders coming together to share their insights, their best practices on what contributed to the wins in
Hmm.
their organization. And
Right.
also, workshops on AI tools on
Yes.
topics like prompt engineering and gamification and so on. So seek out these
Absolutely.
opportunities. Unlike in the past where we had just one event here and there, now
Hmm.
there are so many options out there.
Right.
So check out a community of practice, check out resources that are available for you out there. In
Right.
fact, I strongly encourage you to visit CommLab India's website and see the resources that we have put together for L&D professionals in various roles and capacities.
Hmm. Yes, wonderful that you these places or whatever the avenues that are open for
Right.
learning and upskilling ourselves. So it's just a gold mine. We have to dig it out from wherever
Yes.
possible. So like
Yes.
networking, as you said, definitely networking on LinkedIn for um, with L&D peers and attending industry events, and of course exploring the online communities to get
Right.
access to the shared best practices are always good to keep ourselves up to date. And that was wonderful, Shalini. And well, thank you for sharing those absolutely amazing, actionable insights. And I'm sure our viewers too have many useful takeaways from today's session.
Thank you,
So,
Tanushree, and thank you, dear viewers. And I'm wishing you all the best for a very strong finish to 2024.
hmm. So, yes. So, as we wrap up this session today, I hope you all are all set for that energetic last leap to finish strong this 2024. I wish you all the best. Thank you and take care till we meet next week.
Thank you.